last 5 years in your program?
Sure. I'm the program director for the internal medicine residency program here at the University of Chicago. I think there are several key innovations in medical education that we're quite proud of. One of these innovations has been spearheaded by the medical school, Pritzker School of Medicine, and is called FAME, or Faculty Advancing in Medical Education. And this is an avenue for faculty members in any teaching program, be it a fellowship program or a residency program, to improve their skills as medical educators. So the FAME Academy has sessions 4 times a year. So any faculty member can sign up for these half-day sessions and go learn about how to be a better educator, whether it's improving feedback or evaluation skills. There's other sessions based on the micro skills of teaching. There's a whole host of different teaching sessions that other educators can go and learn from one another to improve the teaching locally in their own program. So I think this is one of the key innovations to help improve the education environment here at the University of Chicago. More specifically, in our program of internal medicine, we have moved to a curriculum 6 years ago, called the 4+2. So our residents spend 4 weeks rotating on inpatient services, followed by 2 weeks rotating on outpatient services. I think it's really important to separate the inpatient training from the outpatient training, because I think trainees learn different skill sets in each environment. And I think there's a different pace and skill set required to succeed in the medical ICU contrasted with success in the outpatient clinic. And so when our trainees are on the +2 block, they are only focused on learning outpatient medicine. And we have a wonderful group of faculty that work with our trainees in the outpatient setting to help improve their skills in the delivery of outpatient medicine. And that's contrasted with the inpatient rotations, where our trainees rotate in general medicine services, hematology oncology services, cardiology services, in the medical ICU and the cardiac intensive care unit. And so these different rotations help to grow the inpatient skill set. And I think it's a nice contrast with the outpatient curriculum that they learn when they're on the +2 block. Together, I think this really forms a rich training environment and a diversity of training experiences that really leave our residents well prepared to step into unsupervised practice after spending 3 years in our training program here at the University of Chicago. I think it's important that every resident receives feedback, both verbal and written, for every clinical experience they have. So whether that's a 2-week or a 4-week or an 8-week rotation, I think it's important that some faculty member is in charge of giving that trainee feedback, both written and verbal, at the end of each rotation. The second thing I would recommend is, I can't emphasize enough how important it is for peers to evaluate one another. I think it's very important for residents to evaluate other residents in an anonymous fashion. When 2 residents work together very closely over 4 weeks, they know each other's strengths and weaknesses much better than the faculty. So I think it becomes essential that part of our evaluation of trainees comes from the peers, and finding out different ways to make sure that trainees are evaluating one another, I think, is a key aspect to evaluating performance. So once we've established multiple different avenues of evaluation, from faculty, from trainees, from nurses, and if possible, patients, that information needs to be processed and looked at by a clinical competency committee. And the Clinical Competency Committee here at the University of Chicago follows the guidelines set up by the ACGME in the United States, which says that every 6 months, each trainee must be evaluated by a core clinical competency committee. This committee reviews every piece of evaluation data on that individual resident over the last 6 months and then discusses the performance of that trainee. So it's important that these committees are comprised of people that work with house staff very frequently. Through these committee meetings, we then fill out the milestone evaluations, and that determines how much progress each resident is making every 6 months in the 6 areas of the core competencies. As you are probably aware, those core competencies include medical knowledge, patient care, professionalism, communication, systems-based practice, and practice-based learning and improvement. And so in internal medicine, there are 22 milestones, and each of our residents are formally evaluated every 6 months in all 6 of those domains on each of the 22 milestones. And those summative evaluations are only as good as the discussion at the Clinical Competency Committee meeting and as good as the evaluations that feed into that process. So I think we have a very robust process here at the University of Chicago, which really allows us to give both excellent summative and formative feedback to our trainees. That's right. No longer is it okay to say that we are going to offer our faculty development programs. We are having to increasingly show to the ACGME which faculty attended which meetings and how they are each taking steps to improve their teaching ability every year. So that is becoming much more important for us, and I think it's excellent because it really allows us to make sure that our faculty are continuing to develop. We expect the trainees to develop the skills of lifelong learning, and this is another step in the process of making sure our faculty are getting better every year at the important task of medical education.